and Maximum Promise is hitting his stride. It's California Burrito, Jacoso. Here comes Final Gambit to the far outside, rolling home like a good thing. Check out Final Gambit and Luan Machado. They win the Jeff Ruby Stakes going away.
Three horses, and on the outside, Tiz-tastic as they come past the 16th with Joel Rosario. It's Tiz-tastic now pulling clear from Chunk of Gold. Instant replay, Tiz-tastic on top of the Louisiana Derby.
Sovereignty begins to get on track, but time is ticking away. River Thames almost there. Sovereignty gonna dive at him late. Here comes Sovereignty!
No, Cole Battle, 16th left for the Rebel Stakes win. He's on top from Manicat Road and Sandman, who's run out of ground. Cole Battle, the story continues, this fantastic story. Cole Battle does it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Trust the Profits. I'm your host with Sean Patrick Nolan and Tim Riders Up Tim here on the channel. We just saw some exciting racings this past weekend as we lead up to the Kentucky Derby. Tim, Sean, any thoughts on Tiz-tastic or Final Gambit?
I'll start with Tiz-tastic. I thought he was very impressive, as well as Chunk of Gold too for the Preservationist baby. Great story, $2,500 purchase, getting up for second, and a mile 3/16. That's the closest to the mile.
Well, that race was so good that it took the words right out of Sean's mouth. So I'll just go ahead and jump in on Final Gambit. And the thing about it was, to me, that I thought it was an impressive stretch run, really came running late, but was completely taken out of the race early. I'm not sure that was their strategy, and they just made one run. So maybe they found a new way to attack the races. It's always a question as to how the Jeff Ruby plays into the Derby picture. So it'll be interesting to see going forward.
I was disappointed in Built, a horse I kind of built it up about the pedigree, and it's just kind of going the opposite. So we'll pass him off on our list for now, and we'll move in another direction, as they say.
I had him in the garbage. Exactly.
Yeah, he's out. But he's got a whole. The great thing about the Derby Trail is you can quickly get replaced, and that's what happens as you.
That's right. Yeah.
Final Gambit wins, and Chunk of Gold comes along, and now we've got two big prep races this weekend. We saw the qualified stamp on those videos, because now basically a win in a second place and you find yourself in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. So that's what happened this past weekend. And as we move towards Florida, Gulfstream Park, the Florida Derby, Sean and now Tim has finally jumped upon board here with us. Me and you have had Sovereignty on number one for quite a while.
Yes.
I noticed on Tim's list that he's finally come around. And
I don't have him number one.
You do. Yes, you do. On your list, I saw him. I checked today, at least, unless somebody's screwing around with you. Unless something happened, unless Final Gambit made the jump. Maybe that's what happened.
Right. Exactly.
He saw
Big
that
jump.
Turfway Park Lounge performance from Final Gambit, and then he's made the change. But no, we turn our attention to the Florida Derby. 100 points, you win this race, you're in. What do you guys think? First off, Tim, I mean, you kind of had the same feelings that I saw when we were talking leading up to here, and that's I'll let you say how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, when I originally looked at this race, I thought it was Sovereignty and everybody else, and I didn't see any of the bigger name horses that we've seen, so far on the Kentucky Derby Trail. But the more I looked into this race, the more intrigued I was, and I think it is actually going to be a decent prep race. The one thing is, I think it's going to have a hot pace. I think we've got several horses in here that want to go to the lead, that have early speed, a lot of front running types that have really some good solid speed. So I think that's going to be interesting. Then you've got the IRAD or Teeth angle in this race, in that of the 10 horses in here, he rode 4 of them last time out. So Which horse does he go to? He goes to the Rapoli stable, Todd Pletcher trained Disruptor, which I find interesting. So the horse coming off the maiden win, which he rode in that one, he gets off of a couple of other interesting horses to me. And maybe that's good for those horses. We'll talk about them as we go through. But initial impressions are that I think we got a hot pace and the potential for that. And, the Baffert Madaket Road departs Oakland when could have stayed there and ran in the Arkansas, but finds himself here in the Florida Derby. So that's a little bit interesting. So Irad gets off and Tyler Gaffleone gets aboard. So, that's a fade for me. But no, another front end running horse that it's going to be interesting, and the strategy as to why does Baffert bring this one here and spreading them out, and he's still got a good runner. We'll talk about when we get to the Arkansas Derby and that race. But interesting that this one comes over to run in the Florida Derby, and he doesn't like running those horses against his other horses, but. I still think it's Sovereignty to me, but I see a couple of interesting things in here as well. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Disruptor's the $1.2 million baby for Rapoli, and couldn't have been more impressive in the two races. But again, they are both around one turn. Now he's trying two turns for the first time, and he'll have horses like Madaket Road that will be out there with him. Now, obviously, as even Billy Mott pointed out for Sovereignty, no, the post is not ideal, to be out in the 10 post, but he does come from behind. There's going to be a very good pace up front. Overall, I don't think the race is extremely tough for him. And remember, he doesn't have to win. He's already in technically points wise. So right. And as Billy said, he was going to bring him to the Bluegrass, but he gets 5 weeks now instead of 4 weeks for the Derby, which he thinks for him will be perfect. So I think in this case, the pace scenario, as Tim alluded to perfectly, will set up perfectly for him. He doesn't have to win, but I still think he'll be too good for this group to at the very least come in second and just get ready to be healthy going to Churchill to a track he loves.
As you take a look at Disruptor there, that was this last race that Sean talked about. And you talked about going two turns. One thing I wanted to check out was Gunrunner. Obviously, the distance with the sire of Gunrunner probably won't be a problem.
No.
Looking at the stats, first time route 219, 41 wins, 19%. We kind of know that just knowing Gunrunner. So you'd like to think, at least on the sire side, the distance will be there for Disruptor. I think this is an interesting horse to bring in, going maiden special weight, jumping right up to a grade 1. However, we've talked, where was the Pletcher horses, right? You called a few weeks ago, Tim, a Hail Mary for the one that Pletcher had thrown in. Do you think Disruptor is a Hail Mary in here, or is he one that maybe we have to take seriously?
Well, I don't know that it's a Hail Mary. I mean, he's getting close to that point, though, right? It still seems like, though, he keeps bringing his maiden to these maiden winners to these big races, trying to find his Derby horse. I mean, who is it right now? I'm not sure. So I think that this one is going to be competitive in this race. And of the ones Irad rode last time out, this is the one he chose to be on. I mean, he typically rides for these connections, but I'm sure he had his choice of rides here. And I do think that this horse, even though it's the first time at two turns here, if you look, was not on the lead at the very beginning of that race, was just off the speed. And with the speed in here, I think Irad might rate, because I don't like him when he's on the lead anyway. I think he rides much better when he comes from off the lead. And I do have a horse in here that I think might be speed of the speed, and I think can potentially finish in the exacta.
Who's that?
I love Neo Equus. I just think that this horse continues to move forward. Third off the layoff, was off since October, and then came back in January in an allowance race, won pretty comfortably in a sprint, then goes two turns for the first time, was leading for most of that race with Irad up in the Fountain of Youth, and ran into Sovereignty and River Thames, who we all think is another good one. So
Yeah.
But, first time at 2 turns, those were fast fractions in that race. And the one interesting thing to me is that they're wheeling back on pretty close to the same time, maybe about 1 week less than they had between the last 2 races. But I find it interesting they only worked him 1 time. He only has 1 workout on the tab here, but it's a really fast bullet 5 furlong, 58-4. Out of all the works that Neo Equus has had, he's never had a sub 1 minute 5 furlong work. So maybe they give him a little time and a little freshening. He gets Edgar Zayas up. I like Zayas for Safi in here. So this is one to watch. I think might be out on the lead from the rail here and threaten. I mean, he's proven that he can get within a couple of lengths of Sovereignty, and with Sovereignty being all the way to the outside, maybe he holds speed this time. Although Matticat Road's going to be right there in press, and we don't know what Disruptor is doing, and Jimmy's Dailies also has early speed, so that's why I think the pace is hot. But I think this is your speed of the speed, and the horse that's out there and may hold on for a piece.
River Times probably would be that Pletcher horse when we were talking about who is his Derby horse.
I agree. Yeah, he's
probably
definitely
one, and then he's hoping for Disruptor here as well. Let's talk Matticat Road, Sean. This I think is we're both big Sovereignty fans, and like you said, if he doesn't win here, I don't think doesn't make me think any less of him going into the Derby. But I think Matticat Road is certainly, we're trying to figure out of all these Bafferts, where do they all fit in? And we're going to talk about Cornucopian in a little bit, who's the one that is entered at the Arkansas Derby. And I think Tim made a good point of horse that finished second in that Rebel to Coal Battle gets moved over to here, maybe to make space for Cornucopian. And then you got Barnes on that list as well. Matticat Road comes in with, look at these speed figures. It's what we always talk about is 3-year-olds, 90, 94, 97, 102. I guess the question is that 102 was first off the bench. Second off the bench, his second race in February because he had run in the Robert B. Lewis in Santa Anita. Is it another step forward, or is this kind of was that maybe the ceiling that we saw? You have talked about how fast that track was playing, so maybe that played into that number.
Yeah, I think this is a bit of to me, if I'm looking at this, Matticat Road, he didn't want to put Cornucopian and Matticat Road in that same race, that definitely is a feather in Cornucopian's hat. The fact that you're putting a stakes horse into another place rather than a maiden, that's a good Cornucopian ran. So I think he thinks obviously he's the legit horse. This horse reminds me a little bit of Getaway Car. You know what I'm saying? Like a good horse, a solid horse can maybe win stakes races, speed, but Getaway Car was nothing in the Virginia Derby. And I think this horse, this is kind of the last ditch effort to get another horse into the Derby. And by bringing him to Florida, I just don't think he thought there'd be that much speed in this race, for him, but he's brought him down. So he's going to run him in here. You might even see him scratch. I don't know, but I'm just saying there's so much speed in here. I don't think this was the right move for him because I don't think he expected this much speed to be up there with him. He thought maybe he could come into a Gulfstream, which is a speed favoring track, steal it from the front and get him the points, but there's going to be a lot of company up there with him.
And you got some serious contenders that'll be closing in on him as well. I had trouble getting to the 2, Cool Intentions, Smoking Boy, the 3, Indecisiveness, Jimmy's Dailies, Enter the Dragon, who's been running on the turf. Any of those names that we need to be aware of a big upset, or do you think we've talked about where the winner is going to come from, Tim?
I think we've talked about the main ones. Maybe Tappan Street if he moves up, but I don't think he's good enough for this group either.
Yeah, completely agree. That was exactly what I was going to say, is that Tappan Street's the only one that we haven't mentioned, and I just think he's just a step below the others that we've talked about.
Yeah, but then in this Triple Crown thing, anything Brad Cox puts on that has a saddle and you got to at least look at him, because he's right now on fire. So
absolutely, and actually using Racelands and Angle pops up here, which is Brad Cox when his last race was 45 to 60 days ago. Pretty strong success score of 7.5 and a win percentage of 23% over the last year and 150 starts. So just a good timing for him as far as when he likes to bring his horses back in that 45 to 60 day window. That's what's popping up. And one last thing I'll mention, I'm Sovereignty Go Sovereignty. I need a hat. Someone send me a Sovereignty hat. But one thing I noticed when I looked really quickly at Racelands was the win probability. Pretty intrigued to see that it's Madaket Road at 28%, with not even Sovereignty second. It's actually got Disruptor second at 17%. So some food for thought. Not that you can totally rely on that, but it was intriguing to me when we feel as we do on Sovereignty. So we turn our eyes towards the second big race for Saturday. That is the Arkansas Derby at Oaklawn Park. They're going a mile and an eighth for $1.5 million. Another grade one. We have a field of 9, and we'll sort by win probability for you right here. And just as you can see, when you got 3 horses within 20% or close, I should say, sorry, 25, 21, 19%, immediately that shouts to me that this is a more balanced, maybe more competitive race, maybe a little bit more wide open and some more options that you can go to. Tim, did you feel that way about this race as well? Or we
like I say, like I was talking about with, like I was talking about with the Florida Derby, is that this one definitely stood out with all of the names in here from all of the preps. But look, you're looking at that win probability, and they got Rodney Dangerfield down there at position number 5. It's like no respect for Coal Battle. It's like this horse just keeps winning one last time out, just does everything they ask, keeps improving, is getting better. I mean, beat some good horses. We just talked about Madaket Road, and that horse was in there. Beat Sandman, who is in here, and lower odds, which somebody's got to explain that one to me. Look, everybody keeps saying Sandman wants to go longer, but I say this: Sandman can handle longer. But if they keep Sandman that far back, Sandman will never get there. I don't care how long you go, they're going to have to at some point put Sandman closer to the pace if they want this horse to compete for the win and not compete for the minors. But I can't go against Coal Battle until the horse gives me a reason to. And he just keeps getting better. And people said he didn't have the buyers to compete last time and hadn't run against anybody. And, he ran against a few of these and other good ones, and just it just keeps doing what he's been doing. And that is win, baby, win.
Yep.
Sean, what were your impressions of the field?
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree with Tim. Obviously, the respect there for Coal Battle. One thing I was looking when I was kind of analyzing this race, and this is, I think, the major point. Do I think he's going to win the race? But I think both Madaket Road and Coal Battle got a major benefit last time when Speed King completely missed the gate completely and just went backwards, got pinched, got hit, went back. Speed King's one fast animal. You know what I'm saying? And if he can get out of the gate cleanly and get towards the lead, and I think Johnny V is going to have to bring Cornucopian from the outside to the front, you know what I mean, to have a legitimate chance. I think there's going to be a legitimate speed battle, unlike the last race. And this track, remember, that day, nothing was closing at all. I mean, at all. And Sandman, to his credit, close when nobody else could close, right? But now that track is playing a lot more even lately, and there's more closers coming from behind as we're getting more into the meet. And I think that's going to help a bit. And I think Speed King is going to be a big play in this thing, not to win, but if he gets out and shows that speed, and all of a sudden Coal Battle and Cornucopian have that speed up with him, I think that could set up better for a Sandman or someone like that to come back and possibly win.
Tim, first thing I would like to say to you is I agree. I don't understand how the Sandman and the odds with Coal Battle seemed a little off to me. Coal Battle is a horse I love the story. I love how great he's shown. I just haven't completely bought in, and maybe this is where I want to maybe see that next step forward. But Tim, everyone's looking at Sandman, but you saw the same thing I saw in this replay as I paused it right in a good spot for a horse by the name of Publisher. Point out, Tim, what you saw, and I'll play it for you. He's right here in the middle.
Yeah, you're gonna look here on the inside right here as they hit the stretch, and he's gonna start to get a little bit of momentum there. And right there, he gets pinched, and Sandman comes up outside him there, and he's going between horses right here. But You see him in the purple hat there, and it gets squeezed a little bit, and then Sandman goes by. But then watch when he gets past those two horses, he does make up a little bit of distance on Sandman here, and they're both closing pretty well. So that took all of his legs out from under him a little bit, took his momentum, a little bit of friction, as we were saying before, as we came on the air, that obviously played against him. But I just find this horse fascinating that this horse is still a maiden, yet has run in the Southwest, then the Rebel, and now, here in the Arkansas Derby, but is competing his butt off and cashing minor checks, but still, maybe they should put this horse in a race to where he could get a win. And I know we're running out of preps, but to get his confidence up and get him running. But with that was the first time Pratt gets on. Pratt is getting back aboard here. They're adding blinkers. Maybe that'll help put him a little bit closer. He was way back in the last race. I think you have to consider this one underneath. And here's the thing. This horse has ran really good on wet tracks so far. He's got 2 in the money on a wet tracks. There's a 50% chance of rain both Friday and Saturday in Hot Springs, and only about a ½ inch on Friday and about a third of an inch on Saturday. But we could get a little bit of a wet track here, something to consider, maybe moving publisher forward a little bit if the track does get wet.
And you saw in my past performances, I drew a line through the Southwest, and I just want to show the people why I did that. Publisher's the 2 here, okay? So watch the 2 as they break out. Has a misstep, gets bumped, and all right, he's already behind horses here, okay? So that's not the only reason I've drawn a line through my PPs. Gets up a little bit here, right? But he's going to get stuck behind a flight of horses that basically just remove themselves from the front runners of this field and finds himself so far back, as I'll skip ahead. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but right here, he's behind this 3, the 4, and they're just losing touch with the front runners of this race, okay? But now let's go look at the stretch, because he's actually coming down on the rail here, picking up some momentum, making some speed, making some move, picking up off horses. And look at this, 8, misstep, jockey immediately pulls him up and he stops. Now, was he going to win the race? No, but I think he has a much better finish in this race. And I think at 53-1, as he was in this race, it wasn't his day that day, but that absolutely made it not that day. So on your PPs, just draw a line through that 89 and through that 7th place finish, because to me, that is not evidence of what this horse can do. And when you look at those thirds and those seconds behind American Promise, who just came back to win 2 weeks ago, behind Coal Battle, this is a horse I think that's much better than maybe what you've seen on paper, at least what I've seen.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and that race in the Southwest was the last time that Steve Asmussen put his son Eric up, and he went to Pratt last time out, who I still think is the best jockey in the country right now, the way the guy's riding. So again, maybe we have to start looking at, you always want to look for reasons you can put a line through a race and say this horse just got into trouble. And if it keeps happening, maybe we just say that this is a horse that just keeps finding the trouble wherever it is on the track. So I will give him one more chance to finish underneath. I think he has a good possibility to do that. I don't think he's a win candidate in here, but I think he can definitely be in the trifecta.
No.
How about you, Sean? Where'd you land on in the Arkansas Derby?
Yeah, no, I was definitely, this is a fascinating race. I'm again, I was Sandman. I think this track is finally evening out for the right thing. Is anybody hotter right now than Jose Ortiz? I mean, that man just seems to be wherever he's going right now. I mean, what, he's finished with 5 wins today at Fairgrounds. I mean, he's just, the confidence that he's gotten back in his riding, I think, is extraordinary. They take Christian Torres off. Jose's done extremely well for Mark Casse. Brings him in. I think he'll give him the perfect ride. He'll get the setup that he didn't get the last race and still almost close into. And I think he's the horse to beat in this spot. Then I was with Publisher and Coal Battle. Obviously, as Tim said, how much respect can this horse possibly get? Until you beat him, he's the horse to beat. But I was, if I had a top 3, it would be Sandman first, Publisher second, and then Coal Battle. It'll be interesting to see what Juan Vargas does. Does he go for the lead, or does he rate like he did in the mile and down, and try to bring him back a little bit further? And then it'll be interesting to see. But right now, that's my top three, which is Sandman, Publisher, and then Coal Battle.
It looks like you guys are setting me up to fall for the Baffert horse, which we will do, and I will do more obligingly than anybody else has bravely done. But before I do that, check out Boyfriend Rocket's last race. This was another one that, Tim, I texted in the group just saying, I think I have a new heartthrob. And that was based solely on the effort that I see from this number 2 horse, Best Friend Rocket, as we come into the stretch.
Yeah.
He's here on the outside, really being asked. And this was after his last couple of races had been a little green. If I gave you money right here, Sean, who's winning this race?
Oh, 1 for sure.
Okay. And I would bet a lot of people would pick this outside horse too.
The outside horse, yeah. And then he just comes,
squeezes the 2. The 2 doesn't give up. And Best Friend Rocket has a nice job here just finding the wire at the end. And that was just a gutsy performance there that if people hadn't seen the replay there on Best Friend Rocket, someone that I'm going to put in my stable, someone I think people like. I'm not here saying he's going to come out and win the Arkansas Derby, but for a price underneath and a horse that may be going forward as they drop him down, maybe not from the grade 1 or grade 2s. I think this might be a nice horse that you can find a price on later with Nick Juarez and Coach D. Wayne Lucas. He's a $575,000 Curlin,
yep.
So he's not no one to sneeze at.
No.
And the statistics are there for the Dam as well, who's 3 for 7 with horses running over the dirt in routes. So Best Friend Rocket may be a price for me, who I'll throw in there. And then it's Tim's favorite time as we wrap up the show to talk about Bob Baffert, who brings in what I think is his best horse. Second best horse. I think Citizens Bull is his best horse, but y'all can take Barnes. Y'all fell in love with him and is early, right? Everyone falls in love with that first horse that they see.
Yeah, and Rodriguez.
You did a whole video on him. I saw it. 3.2 million Barnes, and Cornucopian easily outworked him. I don't know if you guys saw that work 5 days ago going around the stretch when the jockey on Barnes is ringing the reins trying to catch up to him, and Cornucopian looked like Torpedo Anna in the race prior to the Oaks last year, just cool as a cucumber and pulling away nicely and moving very well. Of course, the first race was only 6 furlongs, and it was only a maiden special weight. The speed figure pops at 108. The sire is into mischief, so to me, the distance, in theory, is not something to really be worried about. Cornucopian, for me, I think this would be an exciting one to watch. Johnny V gets aboard after Irad rode the first time breaking the maiden. Sean, Cornucopian, you didn't even mention him in your top 3.
Yeah, no, and everyone's going to compare. Is this the next Justify? Is this the maiden that didn't even run as a 2-year-old and then comes back and then wins the Triple Crown and then everything? He couldn't have been more impressive. If he was inside, I would like him even more. I don't like him on the 10 in the 10 hole, right? Versus the more experienced horses. He couldn't have been more impressive, and major kudos to him. But that field that he faced that day is not this group. You know what I'm saying? And he's on the outside. Johnny's gonna have to send him, and there's gonna be other people up in the front that are gonna be up there with him. If he's that good, then yes, he obviously has a chance. And the fact that he sent Madikit Road to Gulfstream speaks volumes of how much he thinks of this horse. I just think there's so much speed up there that could be in contention with him. I just think this is a little bit too much to do. But hey, if anyone can do it, Baffert can do it. So
if he wins the race like this, where does he fall in your top 5 for Derby?
If he wins this race, he's definitely in the top 5, no doubt. I mean, no doubt. Because he's showing you by sending Madikit Road to Gulfstream how much he thinks of this horse. And Bob Baffert's 2% lifetime in stakes races at Oaklawn, which is just a ridiculous number. So so for him to send the more experienced horse out and keep the maiden in, he's got to think this horse is something special.
Tim, does he make the top 3 for you here?
No.
Yeah.
And look, I don't want to minimize what he accomplished in that first race, but look at this field, right? You have stakes horses that have raced against much better. Cornucopian, that was a great maiden win against a bunch of maidens on this track, but it was sprinting, hadn't gone 2 turns, hadn't faced winners, hadn't faced this class of horses. It hasn't raced from the outside post in a big field like this. It's like there are so many things against this horse, and to me, I think Bob Baffert basically, I'm not sure that he thinks necessarily Cornucopian's better than Matticat Road. I think that he looked at this horse and said, well, we know that this horse runs well here. Let's try that one over there and all my others over here. He's spreading his horses out, trying to get as many as he can into the Derby to make up for a couple of years of not being able to run, and he's trying to get his best shot to be able to win. But, honestly, I've yet to see his Derby winning horse. So, he's got a lot of also rans for me, a lot of horses that can compete for the minors, but I don't see a Derby winning horse in his barn, honestly. And people will be down on me for saying this, and people have been all over a few of his horses, but I just don't see it. It's like to me, none of his horses have performed on a level to where the best you could do is maybe the one and only, who won the juvenile, losing my mind. Yes, Citizen Bull.
Yeah.
So sorry, lost my train of thought because I'm thinking of 4 or 5 of his different horses right now. But I mean, Citizen Bull is the only one that's beat anybody, and I have questions about that horse, right? And I just look, I get it. He's got some horses that are going to be in the Derby field. He'll have multiples in the Derby field. People are going to say I'm a hater. And last year they were saying, when I put out a couple of videos about I think you should be in the Derby, people were saying I was a Baffert lover. I'm neither. I'm a realist, and I'm going to look and evaluate the horses that I see in the starting gate. And I've yet to see a Derby winning horse that he's got in his barn right now. Like I said, can this horse surprise and beat these horses? It's possible. I'm just playing against a maiden against some really good horses here.
Yeah, and I also just throw this in quickly, right? The horse wins by 8. He's amazing, right? Irad's not stupid. He's at Florida riding Disruptor. Now, Disruptor's a very good horse, so I'm not taking that away from him. But if he thinks that horse was that good and that he's got an Arkansas Derby chance, doesn't he stick with him? I'm just saying, so he went to Florida. Now you get Johnny V, the GOAT, to come in, so that's not a bad replacement. Right. But if Irad thought he was that good, does he leave that horse for Disruptor in the Florida Derby? It begs the question, or it makes you say he really thinks Disruptor's that good. But I'm just saying, but the fact that he leaves Cornucopia is not, to me, a good sign that he went to Florida instead to ride Disruptor.
Or does he not want to beat his brother?
Yeah, exactly. See?
There you have it. And Tim, I would actually agree with you. Citizens Bull is probably the only one on the list that I think is Derby winner. But I don't think that there's not a chance that this horse couldn't come through, have a huge performance, and be immediately in the conversation.
Sure.
I agree.
Especially,
absolutely. Hate the post, though. Hate the post. Bob cannot like that post for a young horse.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because we talked maybe a month ago on one of these shows about the pace that was setting up for the Derby being all horses on the front end, and suddenly the tables have turned as we've seen horses that are closing a lot more lately, coming from off the pace, that have won their races, such as what we saw the last weekend or this weekend with Final Gambit, and obviously Sovereignty and
Fantastic.
It's actually tweaking a little bit, so it all depends on who actually gets the points to get in, and then we'll have a better look at that pace scenario. So that's who the experts like here on the channel with Tim and Sean. I only play host. I don't call myself the expert. I give these guys that title. If you're going to be down at Bluegrass, we'll all be down there. Please come by, shout out, reach out. We'd love to say hello. Check out the post section on the YouTube community. We've been putting out quizzes and polls and a lot of different information on there as a new place for us to give you some ways to engage with the crew. Most importantly, throw in the comments who you like in the Arkansas Derby and the Florida Derby, or what you thought about the Louisiana Derby and the race at Turfway Jeff Ruby Stakes this past weekend. Stay tuned this week. We'll have Cap in the Card, Doubling Down, and all the great shows that you're used to and accustomed to, and a live show Thursday with these two gentlemen. at the Cocktail Lounge. Guys, thanks for joining me. Everybody hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Colin. He's Riders Up Tim. He's Spin Nation. Good luck, everybody.